My name's AJ and I'm an alcoholic. We've got to our main speaker portion of our primary purpose speaker meeting, and our main speaker is Mark. Let's give it up. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, AJ. All right, my name's Mark. I'm an alcoholic. Glad to be here, glad to be sober. My sobriety date is April 14th, 2006. I guess I'll start from the beginning. I was born, I kind of came out of the gate like a little bit crazy, and I drank a lot to deal with that. It's like kind of my jam. I come from a good family. My parents, religious people, good people, moral people. My grandparents, great people, man. I freaking look up to my grandparents like those are the people I want to be when I grow up. My aunts and uncles, I've got great cousins who are a great example. They're just decent family people. They work hard, they're honest, and they just embody good moral values. And so I had really great examples growing up, and I knew what it meant to be a moral person. And I struggled with that. It was just, it's like the book talks about the fact that I'm like the actor who wants to run the whole show. I'm forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, the rest of the players. If my arrangements would only stay put, if people would only do as I wished, the show would be great. In making these arrangements, I can be modest, self-sacrificing, kind, but if you don't do what I want, I can be mean and egotistical and selfish and dishonest, right? And I just wanted what I wanted more than I wanted to be good. I really did. I'm not kidding. When I was a little kid, and I don't know where that came from, and I don't know why I was that way, but I wanted to be the smartest kid in the class. And I wanted to be the best kid on the football team. And I wanted to be the most popular kid in the school. And I wanted to have the best looking girlfriend. And I wanted to have the most money. I wanted all of the stuff. And it was like pathological. Now, looking back, what I can see was that there were things going on, whether, I don't know what, people, nature, nurture, I don't know about that. But looking back, I can see what was going down. And what was going down was I felt like I had to be all the way up here just to be okay, right? Just being okay, just being another bozo on the bus, as I've heard it said, that was not going to be okay for me, right? And it wasn't acceptable. And I separate myself. And I started separating myself long before I ever took a drink, and I started separating myself long before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I'm this kid who's wound pretty tight, who's pretty aggressive, who wants what he wants and is going to push and be pushy in order to get it. And I don't mind compromising principles in order to do what I feel like I need to do. And you put that kid into a situation when I'm 16 years old. I'm going to homecoming. My girlfriend's the head cheerleader. She's a senior. We're with the most popular group in school. And we're getting ready for the homecoming dance. And they've got wine coolers and Budweisers. And I haven't drank before. I know you're not supposed to drink. My dad's an alcoholic, but he doesn't do it in the house. My mom has made it very, very clear this is a bad thing. And but I'm at a party and I'm having fun. And I'm sitting there at that party, and I'm 2 years younger than these other kids, and they're the most popular kids in school, and I want to be popular too. And I want them to accept me, and I want to be part of their crowd. And I go into that room, her room, and we're all sitting there, and everybody's talking, they're laughing, and they're having a great time. And they've been going to school together since kindergarten or whatever. They have history, they have friends, they have stuff to talk about, and I'm sitting on the outside, and I'm looking in, and I want to be in, and it seems like every little thing I try to say, it just comes off a little awkward. And I feel a little nervous. And it's just always kind of like dancing with the wrong foot forward. and somebody hands me a beer, and I take a sip off that beer. Not bad. And I take another swill off that beer. And I get a beer and a half in, and I find myself in the middle of that crowd. And I'm laughing, and they're laughing, and we're talking, and it seems like there's no separation. That wall where I was on the outside looking in, it's gone. And I'm in the middle. Not only am I in the middle, but this situation is revolving around me, right? I get another beer in, and I realize they're lucky to be hanging out with me, man. You know? Like, I'm the man. I am the man. And the words just flow off my tongue easily. And the jokes are effortless. And the connection is real. And I have this feeling and I have this thought for the first time in my life. This is who I really am. This is who I really am. God, I go through this world so uptight, so frustrated. Bro, this, me, being able to chill and be connected with these people. Dude, this is it. This is what life is about, actually. And we go to the dance, and we're having a great time, and my buzz starts to wear a little bit thin, and I start getting irritated, and we're standing in line waiting for pictures, and I say to the people that I'm with, because we still had wine coolers and beer out in the car, and you know, back then it was like Red Rock's not developed or anything like that. I mean, we didn't even have any development past Buffalo, I don't think, back then, maybe Durango. And I said, dude, let's get out of here. You know, and I just want to get back out. I'm literally having a physical craving for more alcohol. First time I ever drank. It's not a thought. It's a craving beyond my mental control. And everything in me says, coordinate and manipulate the situation so you can get back out to that car and have another beer. And that's exactly what we did. And we drank the rest of that beer, and I'm not done. There's more to go. And I say to the girls, you know what we should do? We should go to Albertsons and you see if we can get somebody to buy us some beer. I mean, they're dressed up, they're pretty, right? So they go stand out in front of Albertsons and they get a guy, we pay, he gets a bottle, we get a bottle, we get a 12-pack of beer, we drive up to Red Rock, I drink till I black out, and it's the best night I've ever had. It's amazing. And I wake up the next morning and I'm totally hungover. And I think to myself, I'm going to do that every day for the rest of my life for as long as I live. Because I had found something. I had found a key. There was something that I knew, which was that if life ever got too frustrating, alcohol will fix it. If life ever gets too boring, alcohol will fix it. If life ever gets depressing, alcohol will fix it. If life is great, alcohol will make it even better, right? And I quickly become this kid who is going, and so before this, like all my friends, my mom was very careful about trying to manicure my social life to make sure that I'm only hanging out with church friends, okay? And I'm done with church friends, man. Like, I am done with church friends. And I get this entire new group of friends, and I just completely reorganize my life within a very short period of time to where it's like, where's the party at this weekend? Where's the party at this weekend? That's the only question I have, right? And I go, and I spend the next, couple of years, and look, I mean, I have the phenomenon of craving. When I start drinking, I keep drinking, right? And by the time I'm 25, 26, 27 years old, I go on multi-day runners. But when you're like 16, 17 years old, that's not what you do, man. You drink 6, 8 beers and get Robertos, And that's that's my jam, and that works. And it's a great time, and I'm having a lot of fun. And, but like right away, I start having problems, right? Like that girlfriend that I had, You know, I lost that girlfriend like pretty quick on, right? And a lot of the old friends that I start having those, and what was it, 8 days after I turn 18, I get arrested, right? And it's just these things start, right? It's like fun, and then they talk about fun and problems, and then when I start getting into my 20s, it's just problems. So again, I'm an ambitious guy, and you know, I saw myself as like, I'm a functional alcoholic, actually. And we used to joke around, I said, I'm an alcoholic, yeah, dude, like, I know I need to drink. And it wasn't that I needed to drink, it was that I needed the relief, and I knew that I needed the relief. I remember like, my mom would say like, you know, like that's like the drinking's a problem, and I would be like, there's no problem here. The problem isn't drinking, the problem is sobriety. The problem is you talking to me about my drinking, actually. That's the problem. And so I get out of high school, I get a job in the restaurant business, working swing shifts. You make good money on the strip. And I start going to school. And so I'm going to school during the day, and I'm working at night, and I'm a hustler, right? And I'm one of these guys that's like, dude, I can do 60 hours a week as long as I have like a couple of 40s and a couple packs of cigarettes and a bottle and some friends on a Friday night. Like, I'm totally good with that situation. I like to work hard and I like to play hard. And that's the way I roll, and things are going along, and I start having like real issues because the drinking starts going from the weekend to starting on Thursdays, right? And I work in the restaurants. And I work in gourmet restaurants. And if you've ever worked in a gourmet restaurant, you know that you have pre-shift. And at the restaurants that I worked at, pre-shift includes alcohol tasting as part of your education. You have to learn about 27 different kinds of tequila so you can try to upsell people. You got to know about all these different kinds of wine. You got to know about different types of rum and scotch and blah, 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 blah. So there's always an alcohol tasting at pre-shift. So I'm not going to let the alcohol go to waste, right? So I'm getting my buzz on during pre-shift. Then I go to the service bar and I slip him a 20 with a paper cup, ice and some juice, and I have him hold it back there for me, and he fills it up with vodka, and he keeps that sucker just topped off with a little vodka. And every time I go back to the service bar for something, I can grab that drink and I can just nip on it, right? And I can nip on that all the way through my shift. And now I'm at a place, I'm like 23, 24 years old. I'm drinking every day. And I start, you know, 4 or 5 o'clock. And it makes me a better waiter, actually. Actually, I make more money. And you know, the thing about alcohol that's so great is like, you know, it's such an easy bridge to making new friends, having a good time, getting yourself into new situations. And I'm having a blast. And I'm in class one day, and I'm about 20, I think I was 25 years old. And I'm sitting in lecture, and it's in the afternoon, and I'm shaking. And I've got that feeling, like it's like a feeling under your, it's like, I need a drink. I need a drink. And so I beeline, and there's a bar across the street called Cheers that we used to drink at. And I beeline, and I get a double shot and a beer back. And I do my double shot, and I throw the Corona back, and I put it down. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I can go back. I can concentrate. Okay. And I have this thought. Bro, you have a problem. You have a problem. And I finish my beer, and I quickly push that thought to the side. And later on in the week, I see one of my friends. And he's a good friend. So I'm willing to confide in him. And I said to him, dude, I think I might have a problem. He goes, you don't have a problem, man. Take these. And he gives me these pills. He said, if you take these during the day, you won't shake. Right? So now I'm popping Lortabs all day to do that, right? Now, by the time I'm 25, 26 years old, I need a little bit of the upper because I go way too down low, like it's way down, you know, and In the description of the real alcoholic, by the way, it talks about the real alcoholic. After a period of time, he starts to show up at asylums. He starts asking for medication to sort of treat this kind of stuff. And that's what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to treat my drinking. I was trying to take drugs to avoid having to drink. Because by the time I'm 26, 27 years old, when I start drinking, I start going on runners, right? I go on runners. And I don't know what's going to happen. And I come out of blackouts driving. Wow, that's not good. Come out of blackouts with crashed cars. I come out of blackouts in fights. I come out of blackouts in strange towns. I come out of blackouts in jail. I come out of blackouts with people I don't know. One time I came out of a blackout naked in a tub in Park City. I don't know how that happened, and I don't know what happened. I hope I never find out, right? It's just that kind of stuff. It's just completely unpredictable. And so by the time I'm 26, 27 years old, I'm throwing a lot of stuff on top of the alcohol. And my typical pattern looks like this. I can't work anymore, okay? Because I can't show up for anything. Now I finished school. I got a degree, God knows how. But I come to at maybe my ex-wife's grandmother's house because she let me in when I was, in the middle of the night. Maybe in one of the studios at school, maybe in one of the art studios at school, maybe in some bushes somewhere. Maybe at an old friend's house. I come to, and I'm sick. I'm really sick. And I think to myself, I've got to get well. And so I start looking around for what I can steal. And I go, and maybe it's a lawnmower, and maybe it's somebody's bike, maybe it's a set of golf clubs, but I look for something I can steal so that I can go to the pawn shop, so that I can get a few bucks so I can get well, okay? Because I need to get well so that I can think. Because once I can think, I can come up with a plan. And the plan always goes like this, right? I'm gonna come up. This time I'm gonna come up, right? And here's how. And I come up with some scheme for how I'm gonna take over the world, man. I'm gonna take over. That's like always the plan, right? And it's just like every time you talk to me, I got some new plan or some new idea. And it always, every once in a while, it kind of works, and I get $6 or $8 grand. And then I really go on a runner, and I end up in the freaking downtown LA, almost got stabbed. That was a great run. So with gun in my face, whatever. And I'm 28 years old, and I'm coming off the end of one of these runs. And I just had a 4-day runner, and I'm in the neighborhood of my ex-wife's grandmother's house, and she was always good for a handout. And I showed up at her door, and it was about 6 or 7 in the morning, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe she'll give me a cigarette, right? And I knock on the door, and I say, can I get a cigarette? And she just has this broken-hearted thing about her, a demeanor. And she just what happened to you? She said, what happened to you? Man, don't hit me with that right now. I'm just here for a cigarette, She said, why don't you go to detox? And I said, what's detox? I'd never been to detox. She said, come on, I'll take you. And so she got dressed, and she put me in her minivan, and she drove me down to 4th Street, or Washington and Las Vegas Boulevard over there to detox, to West Care Detox. And I sat in there, and I shook it out. And the men and women of Alcoholics Anonymous brought panels into West Care Detox. And I heard men and women talk about how they felt when they were sober. And I heard them talk about what happened to them when they were drinking. And I was just like, I mean, it was just that the identification was immediate. It's like they talk about the fact that it's like I had known for a long time that drinking is not my problem. You know what my issue is? I can't stand being sober. I really can't stand being sober. When the doctor's opinion says that we're restless, irritable, and discontent, that describes me to a T, right? It's like it does not matter what I get, and I am this way today. And I'm going to tell you right now, like the vast majority of my psychological energy goes into just saying, Mark, just stay. Just stay where you're at. You don't got to go anywhere. You don't got to run. You don't got to change anything. Grow where you're planted. My first sponsor told me that. He told me that again and again and again. Grow where you're planted. Because I got to go, man. It's like, I don't know where it's at, but I know it's over there, and I know it's not here, and I know it's better. I know it's going to be better if I get over there. The other thing that goes on with me, it's like, I was talking to Rory before I got up here. It's like, man, the deal with me today is I wake up in the morning, and it's like, it's just immediate. My normal reaction to life is, get the F out of my way. It's just how I am. I got to go, man. And I got to get there now, and you're not moving fast enough. You know, we were talking a little bit about prayer and meditation, and for the newcomers, there's 12 steps, and I'm gonna kind of talk about my journey with that a little bit, but I know there's a lot of people in here who have been sober for a long time and have worked the steps, and I cannot tell you how invaluable it was to me when I was new in sobriety for my sponsor to sit me down and say to me, listen, there's this word called meditation, and the Beatles came in the 60s, and they changed the meaning of the word, and now it means all this other stuff. But back in the 30s, when Bill wrote this book, what it meant was that you got up and you reflected on the kind of person you wanted to be today. What were the things that you were going to do, and how were you going to go about doing it? And I cannot tell you how helpful it is to me to wake up in the morning and sit down and know that my first job is to get quiet with God. Get quiet with God. Ask for, first of all, say thank you. I usually read a little spiritual literature. Try to get some guidance on the things that have been difficult for me as of late. Think about the things that I have coming up. And set my frame of mind in a way where I'm not just attacking everything just because it's in front of me. I mean, restless, irritable, just born irritable, and discontent. Nothing's ever good enough. I can tell you, I've come a long way since I got sober, and I've got a beautiful wife and beautiful kids, and I live in a beautiful house, and we get this great pool. My wife wanted to get a pool for the kids. I've never had a pool. And it's beautiful and I love it. But I can tell you that within the last week, I sat in that house and it wasn't good enough for me. You know what we need to do? We need new floors. You know what? We should paint the walls a different color. You know what the problem is? The surfaces on the bathroom countertops. I think we could upgrade those a little bit. It's just constant chatter and BS. Restless, irritable, and discontent. And they talked about that as I was sitting in detox and they were telling their stories. And I identified, and a guy named Will came up to me and he said, where are you going after this? He saw me. I mean, I'm like, flying saucer eyes, just like, what? I can't believe these people. It's like they talk about like you're reading my mail. Like, how did you know all of this stuff about me? I mean, the identification was powerful right from the beginning. And I was like, these are my people, man. This is my tribe. And this guy, Will, comes up to me and he's like, where are you going after this? And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like thinking about going over to St. Vincent's maybe. I'm not quite sure. And he said, listen, what if I could get you into a halfway house? I said, what's a halfway house? He said, well, you're going to have to get up in the morning. There's a schedule. You'll have to make your bed. You'll have a chore. You've got to have a job. So right out of the gate, you're going to probably have to do some day labor. They do Alcoholics Anonymous. So you're going to have to get a sponsor and you're going to have to go to a meeting every day. Is that something you're willing to do? And I just thought to myself, like, it's not like I have a calendar where I have like things scheduled. It's like, not like I have somewhere to be. Yeah, sure, why not? A bed? Sounds pretty good, right? And that's why I signed up for that. I didn't really know about AA. I identified with the people, and the guy said, hey, do you want to get into a halfway house? And dude, I got into a great halfway house with people who did Alcoholics Anonymous. They brought meetings into that halfway house. I immediately got a sponsor, and I started working the steps. And I had a lot of stuff to clean up, okay? Main thing, I just remember hearing this so much when I was the Steps Club. We used to go to the Steps Club, and you would hear people say, you only have to change one thing, and that's everything. And I just would be like, God, that sounds so stupid, but it's so true. It's like, and it was really, and it was like, no, that makes complete sense. It really does. Like if you were to take sort of like all the facets of me, my personality, and the way that I'm making decisions, and then you were just to flip it on its head and do the opposite, you would get much better results. You would just get much better results. And I got a sponsor, and he asked me, we went through the first step, and are you an alcoholic, and are you willing to believe in a power greater than yourself that can restore you to, and I didn't ever have any problem with that. I'm not a guy who ever had an issue with God. I don't ever remember not believing in God. I had some interesting spiritual experiences when I was a teenager and in my 20s, and I've just never really had that issue. I know a lot of people talk about it, but I really like what Rory said in his 10-minute talk. He said, God's function is to love. And he loves every single one of us. He's a father to every single child. And I have kids, and I can tell you right now, there's nothing those kids could do that could make me stop loving them. Not a single thing. And it's like the sun. The sun's function is to shine, right? But if I don't ever go outside, it's not the sun's fault. Man, I get that. And the truth of the matter was that, and I didn't know this, and thank God for the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor said to me, you suffer from the bondage of self, right? And he took me to step 3, and we read that step 3, and we talked about the actor who wants to run the whole show, forever trying to arrange the lights, the scenery. Man, and I haven't even done a 4th step or a 5th step yet. And I can see it, right? I'm the guy who goes into work 10 minutes late and then just runs his mouth. I'm like a cancer in your workplace. All I do is cause discontent because all I talk about is, well, they should be doing this and they should be doing that. And if they did it like, and you know what? I told them if they would have done that, this is how it would have been, how it would be. And all I ever do is just stir up trouble and stir up problems, right? Like, dude, I am that guy to a T. I just want to run everything. I think back about my relationships with the women that I've been with and how I just run them off trying to control them. And I'm like, you get to that part and it says selfishness, self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our issue. And it just hits me like a ton of bricks, right? It's all I've been doing for my entire life up to that point is trying to arrange the world to suit my feelings. I want what I want when I want it. And if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to punish you. And man, I saw it as clear as day. He told me to get a commitment, and I got a commitment, and it was the old specific group meeting, and some of the old timers probably been to that. And that was a big meeting, and they would bring in all of these speakers. And when I got sober, I was one of these kids who was just like too cool for school. Like I wouldn't, I was just, Roy's talking about like, you sit in the back of the room and you cross your arms and you're like, I don't need these people, man. I don't care what you think about me. And I got that attitude all over me. And my sponsor sees it just like it's like transparent as day to him. And he says, you know what? I got a great commitment for you. You're going to be the greeter. And he puts me at the front door, and I got to greet the people as they come. Hi, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm glad you're here. Hi, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm glad you're here. First time I had voluntarily reached out to people, shake their hand, smile, and say, welcome, I'm glad you're here. Right? I got to tell you, man, I used to get high from that commitment. I would get high from the feeling of seeing person after person. And after a couple of months, dude, I knew all their names. And all of a sudden, I have more friends and I know more people than I've ever had in my entire life, right? And I got a place to be, and I know what I'm doing, and I love doing it. And, so I had this experience of like getting out of self, being relieved of the bondage of self just by doing that first commitment. And I knew that I wanted more of that. And so my sponsor had me sit down and we started writing out my inventory. And I'm this guy, I had like 70 pages, and I had all the stuff that everybody did wrong and blah, 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 right? And I take it to my sponsor, and I just bore him for hours and hours and hours with all this junk, right? And it's like, I'm about 2.5 hours in, and I've done like 3 names or something, right? I had done more than that, but this like thing hits me, and it's like, shut up. I'm so sick of hearing myself talk. I'm so tired of me and my BS. And I can see that like every single resentment, it's just the same old BS again and again and again and again. See, there was a pattern to most of my stuff, and this was one of the main patterns, right? I want what I want, and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do in order to get it, and I don't care if I step on your toes. And when you step on somebody's toes, you got to make them the bad guy. You have to. You got to find a reason to criticize them. You got to find a reason to put them down. And they would do something, and it would be some minor thing. It would probably be nothing, right? And that would make me mad. And then I would have even more ammunition as to why, this person deserves X, Y, and Z. And you hurt my feelings, or you threaten my sex life. You put me down. You made me look bad, whatever it was, right? And it would be stuff as stupid as like, did you see the way she looked at me when I walked in the meeting? It's like, oh, you're a mind reader now. You knew what she was thinking when she looked at you. Brilliant, right? And I'm like that guy. Like I've invented like these stories about my parents, about my aunts and uncles, about the people at church, about the government, definitely about the government, right? And I've just got all of these stories I'm telling myself, and I live in a hostile world. And I'm afraid all the time, and I'm angry, and I'm constantly lashing out. And I think I'm the victim. I'm the victim. I went into my 4th step with the list of all the people who had done me wrong. And I came out the other side, and you know what I realized? I was the predator. I was the predator in every single one of those situations. These people never did me wrong. Man, when I went back and I looked at my life with the degree of patience that people had shown me, the degree of love, the many attempts that they had made to try to connect with me, to try to help me, to try to get me to see things, to try to teach me, I was ashamed. I couldn't believe how I had behaved, the delusion that I had lived in. I couldn't think of much that I had done to really show up and be a part of the solution. Mainly, I had been part of the problem, and it was very, very apparent to me. And that the book talks about if you've done an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you swallowed some big chunks of truth about yourself, and that was a big chunk of truth. And so we sat down, and he didn't ask me to do this, but I did it this way. And I made a list I did a 6 and 7 step list. I made a list of my character defects. And then we sat down and we talked about, well, like, what do you want to do with that? How do you want to grow? What are you going to do? Are you going to just keep doing the same stuff? Well, I'm going to ask God to remove them. Okay, that's good. That's perfect. And I'm going to ask God to remove the fear. That's good. That's perfect. Are you going to take any action? Well, I don't know. What do I need to do? Well, when you get up in the morning and you pray and you're meditating, I want you to ask God how to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. I want you to ask God how you can contribute to the situation that you're in instead of constantly trying to arrange the situation to suit your own needs. And so I started with the meditation habit. I made my 8-step list, and I went out and I made my amends. And I got to tell you, I got some doozies. Maybe the most, I guess, dramatic one from early sobriety was I had warrants out for my arrest, and I had not shown up for court. And, you know, the judge had given me like multiple opportunities. This was one of those situations where it's like, I had violated like 3 times. And he had actually said to me, if I see you again and you have not completed these conditions, I'm going to impose the sentence, which was a 1-year sentence. And I haven't done the conditions, you know what I mean? And I'm sober, right? But I got a job. And I've by this time, I was probably about 7 months sober. And I started paying child support. Had 2 kids, ex-wife. You know, I hadn't really spent much time, hadn't been there for my kids. And I was making amends. I was making amends for medical bills that I owed. I was making amends for credit card bills that I owed. And my sponsor said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a letter to the judge. And you're going to say to him, Judge, this is my address. This is where I live. I have been delinquent in fulfilling the conditions of my probation. But I am working. I am 7 months sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have 2 kids. I'm paying my child support, and I have a job. If you want to come arrest me, you may come arrest me. I will be in court, and I had called the court clerk and got it on calendar. I will be on court on such and such a day. And if you want to arrest me, that would be fine. But if you do, know that I will lose my job. And that's okay. And when I come to court, I'm going to be bringing you the money that I owe to the court. And sign it. Dude, I got to tell you, that was just like the most greatest act of courage that I had exhibited in my life up to that point. I mean, I was scared to death. And my sponsor, man, he had this thing that he would say to me again and again and again. He would say, God didn't bring you this far to let you fall on your face. Either God is everything or he's nothing. What is your choice to be? And I would be like, all right, man, I guess this is what they call faith. I guess this is what they mean when they say faith. And I mailed that letter off, and I went to court, and I showed up in court, and the judge let everybody go before me. He called me last, made me wait like 2.5 hours. Dude, my hands were sweating. I was nervous. He calls me up, Mr. Hutchings. It's like the knowing recognition. He's looking at my letter. He says, Mr. Hutchings, did you bring a check for me today? I said, yes, Your Honor. He said, please give that to the court clerk. Gave it to the court clerk, stand back in front of him. He's like, you can see it, he's just like, I'm going to give you one more chance. You have 6 months to complete your conditions. If you miss one thing, I will impose this sentence. Have a good day. And I went and I completed the conditions, and I was done. Right? And that taught me something, right? It taught me, and I relied on that statement, and I rely on that statement today. God didn't bring you this far to let you fall on your face, right? And the other thing that I always remember about the third step, right? I'm in the action business. I'm not in the results business, right? My job is to take the next right action and leave the results up to God. Right? Stop trying to manage and control. You take the next principled decision and you leave the results up to God. So I went through and I made my amends, and we had a lot of stuff go down, a lot of stuff happen in my life. I've lived a very full life in the last, 19 years. I'll just kind of talk a little bit real quick. So when I was 16, 17, I was like 16, almost 17. My dad got arrested by by the federal government for allegedly participating in like a RICO situation with like Colombian drug cartels. The truth of the matter is that he was a private security contractor who had been hired by drug cartels to provide private security while they were in the United States. He didn't know who the people were, and he certainly wasn't in on like drug dealing. He was a military guy. And so, but this particular prosecutor, for whatever reason, they kind of wanted to just wrap everybody up and prosecute them. And I had been this kid who had been a little bit spoiled. My dad had always done pretty well, and we went from that to living on welfare and being broke. And that year of my life, when I was, basically 17 through 21, so my dad beat the charge, okay? And my dad's defense attorney proved actually that the FBI had doctored the tapes and had fabricated evidence, and the case was thrown out with respect to him, and those attorneys were sanctioned. So it was kind of a big deal, and he was told by friends that he had in the military and law enforcement community, you need to get out of Dodge, dude, because the DOJ has egg on their face, and the DOJ doesn't abide by egg on their face, and they will find something to pin on you. So my dad went to Europe, and in order to afford his defense, he had to sell his business, and we kind of went from doing well to being broke. And my mom had only really been a housewife, and now all of a sudden she's got to figure out how to raise these kids. And my dad had always kind of been one of these kind of, I don't know, unstable is the right word, but in and out of our lives and everything like that anyway. And now all of a sudden, I mean, it's like, yeah, dude, we're eating government cheese and like the whole thing. And it was a massive blow to me. At least I felt it was, like, socially and all of these different things. I had to, I went to work right away. And so I had, I've been working and I've been doing 60 hours a week since I was like 16 years old, And I had a ton of resentment. I mean, a ton of resentment against the federal government, against any government, really. And, so I do my inventory and I'm sitting there, and in my inventory, I'm like one of these guys that's kind of talking about, like, to my sponsor, and it's just like, if he's just laughing, he's just like, dude, you're so delusional, man. But I'm just talking about how the whole system's rigged and all these people are freaking, terrible human beings, and we should just tear the whole thing down. And I'm like that guy. I'm that guy. And you can't convince me otherwise, right? And I kind of get to this point where I realize, and the question he asked me is like, dude, seriously, you like sit around and complain about all the like crappy stuff about society? Like, legit, dude, what have you ever done? Like, what have you ever done to like make society, you say you care about society so much, like legit, what have you ever done? Except for be a parasite. Seriously, I mean, that was the truth. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Okay, so like, what do? I have this degree and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And I start searching around, right? And I realized, like, again, like I'm praying about it, and this is like about a 7 or 8 month process. And I'm sober, I get sober, and I'm making my amends. I mean, my first freaking 6 years of sobriety, no, it wasn't 6, it was like first 4 years of sobriety is just like, I'm driving like a 1988 Toyota that barely runs, windows don't roll down, I'm broke, I'm single, I'm just miserable. I think I want all that, but I'm paying all my amends. I'm going to all my meetings. I'm sponsoring people. I'm doing the deal. And, it again and again and again, it keeps coming back to me like, go to law school, go to law school, go to law school, right? So I apply, I go to law school, and I graduate, and I start practicing, right? And today, a lot of what I get to do is go to those same government people and say to them, so there's this thing called the Constitution, and you have to follow it. So, there's this thing called the written statutory law. And it says what you get to do and what you don't get to do. And guess what? You have to follow it, right? And a lot of what I get to do today is defend businesses and doctors and other professionals with respect to different like licensing and agency actions, right? And I believe in that. I personally believe in that. I think it's a good thing. I think people should be able to get out there and like do their business and make a living and bring some good into the world without too much hassle or interference. And not that long ago, I woke up and I realized I've become part of the solution. Somehow I have become part of the solution. We talk about like the misery of self, of getting self on self. My days today, the way that they look is I get up and I do my prayer and my meditation. And from the time that I get out of my bed until the time I get back in it, most days it's, what can I do for you? What do I need to do for you? What do I need to, and this is not because I'm a good person. It's not because I have character. It's not because of anything like, it's not virtue. It's not anything like that. It's because I know that if I do not structure my life around constantly being outwardly focused on how I can participate in being solution oriented, I will very quickly become the problem. That's just who I am, and it's how I am. It's like my sponsor says, I never sit down on the couch. You know when I'm worst? On vacation. I am terrible on vacation. I never sit down at a nice beach on a lawn chair with perfect weather, surrounded by my loved ones, and spiral upward. It doesn't happen. I immediately start thinking about, what is the meaning of it all, actually? Right? And I just grind out. And so I need a way of life that allows me to live comfortably and successfully in sobriety. And that's what I found in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to appreciate you guys for letting me speak. And that is all I have for you tonight.